I'd now like to welcome to the floor our next speaker, Ihor Kendiukhov, Deputy Managing Partner of Deep Knowledge Group, who will be giving some insights into the investment analytics capabilities of both Deep Knowledge Analytics and Deep Pharma Intelligence. Ihor, always a pleasure to have you with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Franca, and thanks for the introduction. It's my pleasure to be here, colleagues. And indeed, I will be talking about investment analytics capabilities, both at Deep Knowledge Analytics and Deep Pharma Intelligence, with the main focus on algorithms and data for longevity investment analytics, and first and foremost, like general biotech, pharma, and longevity analytics. So firstly, a couple of words about what differentiates longevity investment analytics, biotech investment analytics from investment analytics in general. What should we pay attention to, and how are features and some specific peculiarities of biotech capital market influence and justify the tools that we apply here for investment analytics, for risk management, for portfolio optimization, and so on. Firstly, like, despite the fact that there are many promising biotech and longevity companies, there is also a lot of hype, which is unreliable and which is not based on any validated results, like medical results on humans. Secondly, sometimes there is lack of financial data, and some conventional methods of investment analytics, like analysis of future returns, analysis of real options, cannot be applied because companies act mostly as R&D facilities, as some research organizations. They have contracts, but these contracts are very long-lasting, and they are very disintegrated from other activities of the company. So we need to apply a lot of alternative data, or at least what is called in other industries as alternative data. It includes data on R&D, on biomarkers, academic results of the company, team composition, and so on. Also, and this is the most important in terms of stock market analytics, publicly traded markets, is that longevity stocks mostly look non-volatile and stable compared to many other types of stocks, especially to tech stocks, for example. But that's not true. I mean, they look like, but even especially if you look at their volatility, but it just demonstrates us that volatility is a wrong measure of risk for them. And we will need to develop a very different metrics for risk assessment to deal with longevity publicly traded companies, and also, by the way, with pharma companies. And considering this abundance of data, it is very crucial in order to succeed to replace manual analytics with artificial intelligence, with automated tools, at least on early stages of the due diligence process. Actually, like, maybe the main point that I want to highlight here in terms of features of longevity stock market and publicly traded companies analytics is that the returns of the longevity stocks are not normally distributed at all, and all tool set that is based on normal distribution, that is used in conventional financial analytics, it can be applied here in only very limited extent, and we need to deal with the wild nature of stock prices in biotech. What I highlight here in red, so like the presence of very abnormal returns that are not common for the market in general, but which may be very common for longevity stock market, and that can change a lot. Okay, so about a little bit more about longevity stock market dynamics. So as just to provide you some overview, what's different and how can we analyze it. So actually, we compare here several major indices, S&P 500, that corresponds to the whole market, IBB, that is a general biotech index, And there are two indices that relate to longevity composite index that basically combines 600 longevity corporations globally, and advanced longevity index developed specifically proprietary index by Deep Knowledge Group that tracks the most promising longevity publicly traded companies. And we see that if we are just selecting total longevity market, there is no overperformance. It goes just like S&P 500, although it outperforms biotech market. But if we apply some less conventional analytics, and if we construct a portfolio based on alternative data and based on proprietary risk management tools, we can obtain really above market results, like more than 50% per year. Okay, so I will be talking now about specifically what kind of analytics do we have here, what tools applicable for investors are present there. But considering that my colleagues already explained a lot about our platforms, I will focus predominantly on investment analytics without going into details in other directions. So this is the beta version of our dashboards, which you can access for free for now. And it provides a lot of analytics tools and features, including financial forecasting and portfolio optimization, and including advanced search on investors and companies, competitor analysis, interactive network diagrams, and many others. Actually, totally, we have now about 9 million data points in the dashboard, and we have data on more than 24,000 companies and 9,000 investors. All this data is represented by more than 1,000 parameters for each entity. And I will start from investment analytics for private market, for startups, for private equity. As my colleagues mentioned previously, we have a multi-parametric assessment analytics system that actually combines several hundreds of parameters into 10, 20 vectors that enable automated real-time analytics of SWOT analytics of longevity and biotech startups, showing their strengths, weaknesses, and areas for improvement. Each vector on this diagram is actually an equation of several dozens of parameters that are calibrated based on the data on the startups and companies that we consider to be successful. And also we can compare several companies in the same chart to see what are the relative strengths and weaknesses of each company. On the other hand, quite powerful and useful tool is what we call smart competitor matching, that allows to see companies that are similar to some selected company. It is basically calculation of the distance between companies in terms of the parameters that we analyze. Like returning to the previous slide, so every company has specific values for each of these parameters, and we just can find companies that have similar figure, similar set of parameters to some specific company, and we believe that it may be an approximation of similarity of these companies. It may be applied by investors who want to see similar companies. It might be applied by companies to see their closest competitors, and it may be applied by corporations that want to get into R&D agreement with some AI pharma startup, for example. On the other hand, we have interactive network diagrams that enable investors or competitors to evaluate the prospects of the company by looking at its place in the industry, including collaborations, partnerships, the scientific cooperation, connections of R&D team, and also level of similarity of the market. All these results are represented in the form of graphs that actually connects the whole longevity industry into one single database, and provides actual network of connections, of collaborations, and links in the whole industry. Regarding the set of technologies we apply here, it's a mixture of basic data analytics and math technologies and more or less advanced AI, machine learning tools, including deep neural networks, especially recurrent neural networks, and neural networks with LSTM layers. In terms of forecasting and analytics for publicly traded market, we also apply extensively stochastic processes, including Brownian motion and non-Gaussian models, and unsupervised machine learning and reinforcement learning is applied for clusterization of companies and the competitor analysis. What I mentioned earlier, it's defining the closest competitors and defining similar companies. At the same time, on the level of private equity analytics, on the level of startup analytics, it's more conventional mathematical transformations and just variance analysis of the parameters of each company to find the parameters that are the best predictors of the success of each company. Now let's switch a little bit to stock market analytics, which is actually currently the most developed tool in the whole big data analytics dashboards because the data is very liquid and we can validate results very fast by just looking at the performance of the companies. Here we try to combine conventional econometric models with advanced artificial intelligence and deep learning tools to face the problems that we encounter when we have unconventionally volatile longevity stock market data. And here we forecast stock prices through Brownian motion and enhancing it with various fat tail models. This is a tool which can be considered as some combination of various stock market analytics methods we have applied here. It's a portfolio constructor. It's also available by this link, where every investor can actually select a portfolio of from the predefined list of longevity corporations and to track their performance, to optimize this portfolio either using one of the available algorithms or just selecting the weights for each company by herself. On the other hand, for people who just want to do it quickly and who trust algorithms, we have several different portfolio optimization algorithms here, including our proprietary gross optimal portfolio models, but also we have more conventional like Sharpe ratio, minimum variance models. And what is also very important here is that we really need to have different parameters to evaluate the performance and to evaluate the risk of the portfolio, because as I said, the returns of publicly traded companies are not normally distributed, and the volatility is really not a good measure of the performance of the risk of many biotech stocks. That's why we need at least to look at such parameters as skewness and kurtosis of the companies to see what happens, to see the impact of the extreme events on the stock price dynamics for longevity corporations. And extreme events in the case of longevity stock market are not such rare events. I mean that often it happens that after successful or vice versa unsuccessful clinical trials, there are very large changes in stock prices after some period where stock prices go very stable. And if we take it into account, volatility cannot be a proper risk measure because the stock is not volatile, but then suddenly drops or suddenly grows We need to look at high moments of the distribution. Also, we have developed here various other risk metrics such as value at risk, trainer measure, expected shortfall. And by adjusting the weights of our portfolio, of this portfolio in our portfolio constructor, you can play with all these parameters to define a set of stocks that meets your specific needs in terms of risk and return. And we aim to further backtest and validate these tools to select such metrics that reflect in the most relevant way what happens specifically in biotech market and in the longevity industry. Also, there is a separate public longevity companies big data analytics dashboard dedicated specifically to the analytics of publicly traded companies in the sector. And basically, all these tools can be applied for investors, can be applied by investors and by companies. In terms of what can be useful for companies, it's mostly SWOT analysis of the competitors, also benchmarking and ranking of the competitors. It may be a matching with prospective investors, finding investors that have companies with a similar portfolio. It may be also recommendations on hiring specialists using our graph databases with connections in the whole longevity industry. And regarding services for investors, of course, first and foremost, it's portfolio optimization that enables to select a set of companies that meets individual expectations on risk and return. It's automated early stage due diligence of longevity startups. It's a preliminary selection of investment targets, and it's also analysis of the strategies of competitors, because we do not only have the data on companies, but the data on the portfolios of investors and the parameters of the companies they invest in. Okay, with that, I'm finishing my presentation. Thank you very much for listening to, and looking forward to further talks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ihor. Quite comprehensive indeed. And a reminder for anybody who has specific questions for Ihor or any one of our speakers today, please feel free to pop those into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and we'll do our best to address them during the roundtable a bit later.